What's going on, everyone? Joel Maniac here. So today's going to be a bit of a different stream. So I happen to be perusing through the interwebs today, and I actually came across this video. Um, so for those of you who don't know, Enrique Tarrio is the leader of the Proud Boys. The Proud Boys is a notorious group of people who are known for supposedly mass showing up to the, or not supposedly, they mass showed up to the January 6th event. I would say, protest. I would say some people called it a protest, some people call it a riot. I call it a protest that went bad. The thing about it is it I would have had a different opinion if you would have asked me maybe 4 years ago. The unfortunate thing is a lot of information was withheld. A lot of information was not released in terms of video footage, in terms of testimony. There was apparently a lot that happened in terms of just overall fake, like people making things up, people doing I don't really know how I want to go into it. A lot of it was made up. I want to get this in a good size so that way my chat doesn't also I'm not typically built for this. So I'll just have to do a little bit of rearranging in terms of like where things are. But the reason I want to have it in a specific place is I want it to be shown down here. This is the publisher of the video is Steven Crowder. I found him randomly when I was on Twitch. I'm sorry, not Twitch. I randomly found him when I was on YouTube, and I found the video that was linked to this one that we'll be live reacting to today. Now, this isn't a political stream. I don't talk about politics. The reason that I'm getting into this video and doing a live react is completely because this video involves something that we were told was one thing and turned out to be another. And that is what this is about. Like, if you have one specific type of opinion as to what happened on January 6th, that's fine. That's your opinion. Like, what was told to us was not true. Some of the stuff that happened didn't actually happen. And I say that because Tucker Carlson released the videos, which cost him his job, to the public about what happened on January 6th. And with all that, I just, like I said, I want it to be known that he did this. This is Steven Crowder. He's on Rumble. He's on YouTube too, but like he gets a lot of his stuff kind of blocked on YouTube. So like, if you want to go toss him a follow, I want him to, he's full credit. This is his Steven Crowder, Louder with Crowder, Mug Club, all them, they made this video. I gave it a like just because I'm going to share it. But, I just want everyone to know that, and toss him a follow because I'm reacting to his video. I tossed him a follow. I liked his video because we're going to be live reacting to it. But the primary thing that I want to be out there is I want to see what happened. I've heard stories about what happened to these people. And when I say that, I mean, like, I've heard so many bad things about what happened to them. I've heard stories of torture. I've heard stories of like gulag-like imprisonment, meaning like the Russian gulags where people are basically treated like animals. A lot of them were put under such terrible living conditions. Some of them actually hurt themselves to an extreme measure. I don't know if I can say that on Twitch. I'm not 100% sure. This video is going to also be uploaded to YouTube. So on that note, I'm not dual streaming on YouTube and Twitch anymore. It's just going to be on Twitch is where I'll be live. I'm just putting that out there. So when this video does get uploaded to YouTube, if you follow me there, please follow me on Twitch. We'll see how this goes. If it goes well, I'm going to live react to more. I'm going to try my best to mute the ads because I don't have the premium. It's like $89 a year or something like that. I'm all set with that. But I don't typically go on Rumble too much. I just went on Rumble for this because it's the only place I could go to get the full video. You can't get this full video on YouTube, but let's get into it.
Of the conspiracy.
So I'm going to mute all this because these ads, I don't want to be demonetized or anything like that. Oh, is this part of it? Okay, it's part of it.
The American people and our system of democracy and rule of law are holding people accountable.
Enrique Tarrio, more than 3 decades behind bars is what they want.
He was the last Proud Boys leader to receive his punishment for the riot.
This week, the former head of the far-right Proud Boys was sentenced for his role in that assault on our...
So that's the thing. He got 22 years in prison. He's the leader of the Proud Boys. He got 22 years in prison. And the craziest part that I found out about this, and I think they go over it in this video, I'm sure they will, but he wasn't even there. Like, he wasn't in Washington at all on January 6th. He was in another state. They had to, like, go to another state and arrest him. And he got the highest sentence out of everybody there. And again, this isn't about, like, what side of the political spectrum I'm on. It doesn't matter about like what side you are on. This video is live reacting to the mistreatment that some of these people had now that they're recently pardoned and they're coming out and telling their story. But he got 22 years and he wasn't even there. That's wild.
Democracy.
Enrique Tarrio was the ultimate leader of the conspiracy.
There's a terrible threat on the domestic front, and a great threat may come from within rather from without.
Prosecutors say that he was essentially pulling all of the strings and he would have been there on January 6th had he had the opportunity.
I don't want to get it too loud.
Today, let's start.
First of all, if you don't know, that's Steven Crowder. Actually, no, I probably should listen to this with headphones on now that I'm thinking about it. That's Steven Crowder. Like I said, go toss him a follow. He and his undercover people, I think it's called Mug Club Undercover, if I remember correctly. Trying to get my headphone wire here. Apparently is wrapped up on some stuff. But yeah, he's the one who did all the work. This is his video, giving him full credit before going too far into it. I gotta make sure my headphones are actually set up here. Bear with me. I want, yes, Razor Leviathans. Yep. And then I want you to be properties. Boop. Oh no, Razor Kraken. Not Razor Leviathan. I want you to be Razor Kraken. Kraken. That way I can turn up the volume and y'all won't hear it. All right, cool. Nope. All right, so this is Steven Crowder. Again, Louder with Crowder is his show, giving him full credits for the video and everything like that. Not stealing any of his work, but I just wanted to live react to this video because it's insane.
With the stories you've heard, Enrique Tarrio, so-called leader of the Proud Boys, was convicted of seditious conspiracy and sentenced to 22 years in prison.
22 fucking years. He wasn't even there.
And according to the DOJ, Tarrio, even though he wasn't in D.C., he was the mastermind of a plot to obstruct, influence, impede the official Electoral College certification on what is now the infamous January 6th. You've heard him labeled everything from a domestic terrorist compared to Timothy McVeigh or the Boston bomber to being a Fed.
Let's do this, actually.
A plant. You likely believed a lot of these stories. And he was locked away for them in a federal prison where he would stay until he was nearly 60 years old. But if those stories are true, if any of them are true, why the pardon? Thanks to President Donald Trump, along with a lot of other people from January 6th.
I heard like
Tarrio
1,500 people in total.
This Tuesday.
I heard that was like he pardoned like 1,500 people in total. Like, that's insane. All those people were in prison because of something that would be considered a protest. And again, you can argue that it was or was not a protest, but when you compare it to like the stuff that happened in 2019 and 2020 with BLM and the riots of people dying, the burning of things, all that noise, that's literally like if you want to compare it to that, it's ridiculous. Because I think if I remember correctly, at January 6th, on that day, one person did pass away, and it was a protester. Yeah, I know some people took. I don't know what words I can or cannot say on Twitch, but like there were some people who took the ultimate drastic self harm thing. I don't think I could say it. You know what I'm talking about. But on that day itself, one person ended up passing away. And that was because, I think it was because they fell from a great distance from when the Capitol Police pushed them back. If I remember correctly. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. I could be 100% wrong. I'm just trying to see if I should. Yeah, let's. I don't want to block his stuff. You know what I mean? He does great work. And before you start criticizing me, so well, that's why you're doing this, because you idolize him or something. No. Like, I like journalists and I like podcasters and I like anybody who exposes the truth. And Steven Crowder's undercover team did that many times before, with people who were related to like COVID and stuff. So respect to him. Much respect.
For the first time in an exclusive sit down with Brianna Morello on behalf of Rumble Premium here, Louder with Crowder, Enrique Tarrio will give you his side of the story.
And that's what we're listening to, just his
One
side.
that you no doubt have not heard from legacy media, and certainly not reported by the government. This is his detailed truth behind everything. The days leading up to January 6th.
What's with the two mugs?
Conditions
Why do you need two?
in which he lived, what he was subjected to.
See, this is the difference between someone like me who keeps a mug and drinks from it. Like, two reasons you could tell this is a prop. One, there's two. Two, the handles are facing away from him. Like, it would be facing him if he was actually using it. That's just me saying that.
In prison.
Clearly a prop.
And above all else, hopefully the truth.
That's what I'm looking for.
That you may never have known.
And again, this is Steven Crowder, Louder with Crowder. This was his video. He's on Rumble. Follow him. He's also on YouTube. But I have to go to Rumble to watch this because his video is not on YouTube. Because like you can't. I don't want to risk not watching the whole thing. But yeah.
Well, it's an honor to be sitting here with the man himself, Enrique Tarrio, fresh out of the pen after, well, a couple of years. And it's been crazy, Enrique. Thank you for joining me. You just were pardoned by President Trump. This is your first sit-down interview, so welcome.
Thank you. And I'm actually honored to be on this show and be here with you.
Honored, but his pants got holes in them.
Be here with your audience and
completely
Steve.
Natural.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of disappointed that we didn't have the Steve Crowder mugs.
Oh, Mug Club.
The Mug Club.
Wow.
Yeah, yes, I know. Well, we'll get you some. Those are
Can't
vintage
even get him a mug
days.
when he shows up for an exclusive interview.
Well, let's even know. He'll definitely have a couple of those going your way. Because, well, I mean, there's a lot to celebrate, so you definitely could use a good mug on your hands these days. But, you know, it's been a crazy couple of days for you. Yeah. And you and I have been communicating over these last few days. And I am at total disbelief. You know, President Trump issuing this pardon to you after you were sentenced to 22 years in prison for a rally that you weren't even at. Mm-hmm. So let's just get your initial reaction.
That's the biggest thing that blows my mind. This dude got 22 years in prison for... And you can question and argue whether it was a peaceful protest, it was a rally, well, not peaceful, whether it was a protest, a rally, a riot, whatever you want to call it. Compared to other ones that took place just a year prior in 2019 by BLM and Antifa, you can argue those things all you want, like what kind of event this was. But that's the one thing that blew my mind about everything that happened to this dude. He wasn't there. He was like a state over in a hotel when this whole thing took place, and he got 22 years in prison, sentenced. That's what blows my mind.
To the moment where you realized President Trump was going to give you back your freedom and get you out of solitary confinement and get you out of this prison system that they've literally been going after you for and torturing you in.
Yeah. So you use the word disbelief. I didn't have that disbelief. Mm-hmm. I knew that if he got elected and they didn't steal the election, mm-hmm. that we'd be pardoned, we by all these J6ers. And I knew he was going to pardon or commute the sentence of everybody.
By the way, President Trump pardoned, I think, over 1,500 and commuted sentence, I think like 14 or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I believe that's what it was.
It was a good hunch because that's exactly what he did. He went ahead and he pardoned everybody. And he commuted some sentences, and you know, some of those I think are temporary commutations, because if you look at down that list of commutations, there are people that had very extensive trials, 3-month trials, 4-month trials. In our case, specifically, there's about 60,000 pages of transcripts. So there's a lot to go through.
60,000. Wow.
He did go case by case, and he saw that most of these cases.
No.
Right.
I'm gonna tell you right now, President, he just became president. I doubt he went case by case. He had a panel of people go case by case to figure out who to pardon.
There wasn't equality in justice when it came to J6ers or when it came to other cases. So I think promises made, promises kept. So I'm thankful for the president for keeping.
He did keep his promises.
Yeah, and that's really something that
credit.
he's always done. And I think it's really impressive that he did it the day he got there. And that was really, really important. And you mentioned that there are some who haven't yet been pardoned, but they've been released from prison. Stuart Rhodes, I mean, I followed his trial as well. Mm-hmm. The amount of perjury committed during his trial was insane. I mean, they literally put 2 officers on the stand who now, because of Joe Biden, cannot be prosecuted, of course, because they issued a pardon.
That's the other thing that was incredibly wild to me. Like, the 2 officers that testified at most of this stuff, or all of the January 6th stuff, like, they're pardoned. They weren't convicted of any crime. They're not thrown in jail. They're not in the legal system. They haven't even been charged with a crime. And former President Joe Biden pardoned them, along with a laundry list of other people who don't even have charges against them. Like, premeditated pardoning, which the president has the authority to do. It's happened in history before, but it absolutely blows my mind that if you don't think that this is wrong, why are they being pardoned?
To them, but
could be insulted, which I intend to do.
Yes,
wholeheartedly.
I mean, you got to do that at least, and I always tag them in my post too, and I do that on X as well. Mm-hmm. It's just so enraging to see what's happened over the years. But I want to take it back to your story because, like I said, you weren't there that day. You were nowhere near the Capitol.
Right,
and
that's what's wild.
For some reason, the DOJ wanted you to go to prison for 33 years. You were sentenced to 22 years, though.
The judge gave me a break.
Yeah, well, that's the part where I was kind of crazy because I know when we spoke, you were like, oh, 22 years, not so bad. That was kind of your initial reaction when you thought about it.
Yeah.
But talk a little bit about that, because 22 years is a very long time.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
so
it is.
When
Insane.
I first got arrested, I hired my attorney, Naip Hassan, and Sabino Jaregi, and they were awesome, first and foremost. And they came in first meeting, they're like, look, we're gonna fight this thing, but just letting you know, if we lose, you're gonna do about 4 years. And
4 years.
I thought that was insane. I'm like, 4 years?
Can you imagine that? Just put this in perspective. Like, imagine something's going to happen and you're not there. You're involved in it. Like, your company's going to do something. You're involved in it. And you're like a manager of a company, and your company goes to do something and they do something illegal. And just because you're a manager at that company, you get 4 years for just being, so you weren't there. You weren't at the event. You didn't cause any of that stuff physically there. But because you're a manager of a company, you go to jail. That's wild. I'm not saying that's exactly, but that's just tonight, like a, whatever you call it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And
wasn't even there. 4 years is what they told him he was going to get right off the bat. 4 years.
There was a gentleman, I don't remember the name, that he was the first person to go to trial, and I believe his name is Guy Reffitt. And went to trial, and there was a whole bunch of there was a big
I think that means like the video.
He got 7 years. He went to trial.
Not sure.
He stood his ground. He took the stand in his defense, and the jury still found him guilty.
Yeah.
And we'll get into juries in a second.
Mm-hmm.
So it got increased to like 7 years, but I'm like, wait, hold on. I wasn't
7
even there,
years.
so they can't give
Someone
me
got 7 years who was there.
Now we moved the field goal post. 7 years. So we decide to go to trial. They offer me an 11-year plea deal.
11-year plea deal. Holy
this
crap.
guy got 7 years and he was there. He didn't do anything.
Dude, imagine being in this guy's shoes. Somebody who was physically there, who did something there, got 7 years, and they're now telling him you're going to get 11 when you weren't even there. Dude, like, he wasn't even fucking there.
Wrong, but he got 7 years. How are you going to offer me that I wasn't there 11 years? And I denied it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. So we go to trial and we lose. Obviously, jury.
Yeah, liberals.
And my attorney's like, look, they might give you, man. You need to. I'm going to tell you, but you need to keep your your nerves calm. He goes, you might get 10 years. I'm like, man, 10 years. That's wild.
For not even
the
being
PSI
there.
comes back, which is a recommendation by the probation office, and the judges almost, at least in South Florida, because I've had other cases. This isn't my first rodeo. They usually almost 100% of the time go with what's called the PSI. PSI comes back at 14 years. I'm like, 14 years? That's crazy.
Why the U.S. Safety Commission wants to...
All right, I gotta mute it because I don't want you to listen to the ads, and I don't want... There we go.
Yeah.
I gotta do that because it's Rumble. I don't pay for the $90 a year Rumble premium, so yeah.
DOJ comes in, it's like, wow, we're going to give you, seditionists, we're going to give you 33 years. That's how much we want to give you, and you guys deserve it. I'm like, all right. I think it's good.
Hold the fuck up. The Department of Justice wanted to give him 33 years for supposedly organizing an event that 33 fucking years. Can you imagine? Could you imagine? Just hear me out. You remember the riots that took place. If you don't, Google it, please. The riots that took place in 2019 and 2020 that were caused by BLM. I think they called it the Summer of Love or something like that. You remember those riots? Can you imagine the leaders of BLM getting 33 years because they organized it? They organized the group, right? What about Antifa, which is not apparently a group? It's something else. I forget what they're claiming themselves to be so they don't go to jail. But 33 years for... Imagine they did that for every time there was a riot in the name of that organization. 33 freaking years.
33 years because it's outrageous.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, because it's so outrageous, a judge isn't going to go for it. So I'm not going to get the 14 years.
And you had a Trump-appointed judge.
I had a Trump-appointed judge. Okay. I mean, the way that they appoint those judges is a whole other ballgame.
Yeah.
A whole other conversation.
But they were harder. The Trump-appointed judges on basic things.
Some of them, actually, two of them, the two, I guess.
One thing I will say, though, like, I don't believe in that whole thing of like a Trump judge, a Biden judge. I don't believe that an appointed judge by a specific person should be either harder or more lenient. If you have a judge appointed by a president and he goes easier on things related to that president, I'm not saying the Proud Boys was, but like they were supportive of Trump, then that judge is a piece of shit. He's corrupt. Because then, say, like, if you had a Biden appointed judge and when his son went through all the trials, that judge was trying to do things in their favor, then that's a piece of shit judge, right? So if you have a Trump appointed judge and that judge went easy on you, that judge is taking favoritism instead of taking like account of the law. I'm not saying the law was applied properly in these cases, but I'm just saying that if they're lenient towards one thing that had a political agenda, then they're a scumbag. They're not applying the law equally. They're applying it how they see fit.
I hate using the word lenient. The more lenient ones were Trump appointees anyways, but yes, the stronger ones were Trump appointees. But so I thought the ridiculousness of 33 years the judge would be like, no, I'm not going to give him 33 years. What are you crazy? I was like, it's a Trump appointed judge. No problem.
That's a terrible mentality.
He went ahead and he's like, I'm going to give you the 33 years.
Wow. 33 years.
But I'm going to give you, I'm going to do something I've never done. Mind you, this is the judge's second trial ever in his life.
Jeez. His second trial ever.
I've never done, and I never plan on doing. I'm going to cut your sentence almost in a third. I'm going to give you 22 years. I'm like, oh, that's nice. But by that time, my co-defendant,
it's still 22 years for not even being there.
My colloquy to him was based on me being first because I wanted to make sure that the guys didn't pay for what he was going to give me. I knew he was going to give me a high sentence.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure that my guys didn't pay for that, because if I'm first and it's high, they set the bar high.
Wow.
But it ended up being he got sick that day, and I ended up being last. And he gave my co-defendants Joe Biggs, Ethan Nordine, Dominic Pizzola, Zachary Real, 18, 17, 15, and 10 years. And
wow,
you know, I came in being like, oh, I'm gonna get 4 years. That's crazy, to getting 22 years.
And he
then
wasn't even
after
there.
that, the DOJ actually appealed before we were able to put an appeal. The DOJ appealed our sentence because it was too low,
which is unheard of, by the way. This is Matthew Graves' office, and Matthew Graves' office, if you follow, he's very liberal, and so he when it's a tough crime.
So the Department of Justice, on top of him, they wanted 33 years. They gave him 22. The DOJ appeals it to get the 33 for someone who was not even there.
And when it's a crime that's actually violent, when it's a crime that he probably should prosecute to the full extent of the law, he decides not to, and he opts out of that. And, you know, that's the reason why DC is such a train wreck these days. But to hear that they were appealing.
Just so everybody on Twitch has a heads up, if you're watching there, we are going to be starting an ad here in about 5 minutes or so. I could snooze it, but it's only going to snooze it and then play it again for another 5. I'm just going to let it play so we don't get another one for another hour. If you don't want to watch the ads, I think the only way you can really get around it is to subscribe. So if you got like a Prime sub or something like that, feel free to toss a sub. But yeah.
Your sentence, because they still wanted the 30.
When the ad starts, I will pause it. Just keep that in mind.
33 years is a gut check at that point, because I mean, 22 years for a man your age, that is a massive chunk of your life.
That's a life sentence.
Let's
be honest.
22 years.
That's
if he's
exactly
in his 40s, that's in his 60s. He's not getting out. Wow.
And even getting those 22 years, again, I was like, damn. But there was hope. And I knew in my heart, there was, one way or another, I wasn't going to serve my full term. Whether it was through appeal, whether it was through election.
Yeah, you got 22 years to work on that.
If Trump won, I knew it was game over.
Yeah.
We were going to go home.
Yeah.
Because again, we have the best president since George Washington, and he's kicking ass right now.
I mean, he literally came and just wiped out the whole Biden administration agenda on day one.
That's my thing too. Like, you can have your opinions about Trump all you want and how he is, but he kept his promises. Like, he said he was going to close the border day 1. Executive order, state of emergency, borders closed. He said he was going to release the January 6th day 1. Executive order 1500 release, 14 commuted service, day 1. He closed down every one of the agendas that were affecting the American people, day 1. He held his promises. Again, ad starts in 3 minutes. I will pause the video when that happens and come back. I think it's like a 3-minute ad, so we'll count that as a break, and then when that's done, I'll start the video back up. That way y'all are not missing nothing.
And that's something that the American people wanted him to do, so we're thankful for that. Yeah. But I mean, it's pretty crazy to sit here and look at what's happened to you. The trial itself, let's talk about the trial itself, because like we just briefly mentioned, it's in Washington, D.C. You're not going to get a fair jury. That's, again, against your constitutional rights. You should have the right to have a fair jury, but you're talking about a place that literally has a majority of like federal employees.
Yep.
They don't agree with us politically on most. I think Joe Biden won it back in 2020 by over 90% of the vote. I mean, it's insane. 93. Yeah. So you're not going to get a fair,
and that was right after the election too.
These people.
It's not only not fair to us 5, and all the other J6ers. It wasn't fair to those jurors, you know, because they were honest. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate honesty, and the judge put them on the colloquy and said, hey, do you know who the Proud Boys are? Do you know who Enrique Tarrio is?
Checking the audio.
What's your thoughts on it? I mean, they went down the whole list of liberal talking points.
Yeah.
Nazi, white supremacists. I know I'm a little lighter now because I've been locked up in a cage for 3 years.
Don't tell that to Joy Reid. She was talking about you last night.
I rebel in that.
Yeah.
Of course she was.
But they went down that whole list, and the judge is like, okay, are those strong feelings? And they said, yes, those are very strong feelings. And he said, this is the most important part. They said, can you get those feelings and put them aside and judge this case by the evidence alone. Do you know what their answer was?
No. Were they honest?
They were honest.
Yeah.
They said no.
That would help you in appeal.
Not.
Yeah.
So they said no. They can't put their feelings aside. Right then and there, it's not a fair jury. It's not fair. Right then and there, they should have just stopped, selected different jury people. Because how's that a fair and impartial jury if they can't put their feelings aside as to what they were told just happened? Every one of those people should have had a different trial, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
We cannot go ahead and we cannot set those feelings aside because they are so strong. And I appreciate it. I'm like, okay, well, this guy's going to go. Well, the judge brought them all back. This wasn't one juror. This is multiple jurors. Judge brought them back the next day and was like, oh, are you sure? Because I don't know if you've sat in one of those courtrooms. The judge sits up here, right?
Are you sure?
He's in a black robe. He's looking down at you. There's this God complex with judges that I would.
All right, everyone. So we got about 5 seconds to the ad. I'm just letting everybody here know that we are going to, I'll pause the video here and I'll see you when you come back. All right. If you are watching, like I said, we're going to take a short break here just because the ad is running on Twitch. Once that is complete, we're good. We'll move forward. But so far, this is just absolutely wild. I honestly cannot believe that this is happening to these people, or that this did happen to these people. And it took an election 4 years after the event. It took winning an election for them to be freed, because could you imagine that, especially in his situation? Like, he was not there. And yes, you can argue, well, he's the leader of the group that was there. He orchestrated it, but they couldn't find any proof to prove that he orchestrated it, that it was a planned event. From what I heard, I mean, we haven't gone through everything here. Yeah, like I said, you can see it on Stream Elements there. We got a 3-minute ad break. We got it paused. But it just blows my mind that this is exactly what happened. That this right here, this entire event happens, and they have no proof that it was a planned event. Nobody, and I repeat this, and you can fact check me, look it up, go on Google, you can look up everybody who was charged on January 6th. Not one person was charged with an insurrection. That is a chargeable crime. Not one person was charged with treason. Not one person was charged with terrorism. And so they had no charge of those types to place on these individuals. And because of that, they came up with these other charges to hold them on. And in his case, he wasn't even there. He was in a different state. 22 years. DOJ wanted 33 and actually appealed it to try to get 33. Because he wasn't even there. Like, how? How the hell does this make sense to anybody at all? Honestly, it doesn't make any sense to me. And regardless of how you saw January 6th, this isn't what this video is about. This video is about this person who got a ridiculous sentence. Him and many others. Years in prison. People hunted down. People turned in like they were fugitives of the state. If you ever watched the movie Fugitive. Hunted down, taken in, and just tried, prosecuted. And again, the stories and rumors I've heard, these individuals were imprisoned in like gulag-like conditions. They weren't typical jail cells. They were in maximum security federal prisons. I heard they were bounced around state to state to state, kept moving, refused to see their families. A lot of them locked up in a solitary confinement. Some of them went insane. Some of them hurt themselves drastically to the point that they did not walk out of prison. I don't think I can say what you think what you know what I mean. I don't think I could say that on Twitch. But at the same time, it's completely insane that these people were put through this because of something that was not as violent that took place a year prior by BLM in the same state, or DC, District of Columbia, the same area. Look up the BLM riot that took place in Washington. The city burned. People died. Businesses were looted. The Capitol building was vandalized along with other federal buildings and monuments. A police station was burned down, for Christ's sake. And nobody got 22 years there. Why didn't every leader of BLM who orchestrates this thing get 22 years in prison? Because it was on the wrong end. But all right, we're back. Welcome back. We'll go ahead and pick this up where we left off.
I would love for it not to exist in the American political system. They think they're gods.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, are you sure that if I present to you, the prosecution presents the evidence and I tell you what's correct and what's not, that you can't judge this? Well, they're like, oh, judge. Yeah, I think I could. Congratulations, you're on the
So just to recap what happened before the break. So first the judge asked, can you put aside your feelings to be a jury on this? And they said no. People said no, I can't. So the judge had them come back the next day, ask them again, and they said, yeah, I think I can. Seriously? Let's ignore the fact that, it's a complete lie. Let's ignore the fact that they said no, and then they realized, oh, wait, I'm going to be removed from this? Yeah, let me change my mind. That right then and there, whole new jury should have been selected, or the trial should have been moved somewhere else.
Proud Boy trial. My guys protest a lot of the drag queen story hour thing. And during the trial, they were protesting the drag queen story hour, which is awesome. Well, the foreman and he failed to say this, the foreman in our jury pool puts these events together.
Oh.
He puts together drag queen story hour.
Wow, that's not a conflict of interest. So the foreman of these trials has a personal beef with the organization, the Proud Boys. Wow. Talk about mishandling justice right there. That foreman of the jury, foreman is the one who hands the verdict. Foreman is the one who runs the jury. That person would have a personal vendetta against the Proud Boys because he's protesting something they put together. Wow. Talk about zero accountability, zero background checks, and they just didn't care. They want to run it, and they wanted these people in prison.
So, and a foreman's usually the most influential person in the jury.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, it's not, and I go back to it, it's not fair to them because they hate us. And I'm okay with that. I'm 100% okay with that. I don't want to jail them because of those feelings. Now, for hiding things from the judge, that's perjury.
That is perjury.
They should go to prison.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They should go to prison. Because of that, not because of their not because of their views.
But they withheld the information that would have removed them from the trial.
I guess I'm a libertarian when it comes to that. I think DC should have all the liberal policies. I don't think Congress should take over the district for Mayor Bowser. I think they should get everything they want. Let murderers go free. I mean, because that would be the best thing for the rest of the country. So they could see exactly what a liberal utopia looks like. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to be anything like a utopia, but
just if you want to have an idea of what that would look like, and I know he's stating it for Washington, D.C., you can just look at California. I mean, people were looting, people were robbing, people were literally legal to get away with less than $1,000 worth of theft, and they would not be prosecuted or charged. And it came to the point that when the wildfires started, they had to reverse that because people were literally stealing from victims of the wildfires' houses because it got so bad that they were finally cracking down on. The people getting caught are like, wait, what do you mean? You mean I'm going to go to jail? Like, they knew they were going to get away with it. That's exactly what it would have been like.
But we're seeing it already in multiple cities, but I want them to do what they want. They're still held back a little bit, but I want them to do what they want. So in that sense, I'm a little different.
Yeah, well, it's kind of happening. I mean, in New York City, they received an abundance of illegal aliens, and as a result, if you look at how the 2024 election turned out for New York City, in every borough, Trump was able to win over more voters than he's done previously, and it's numbers that we've never seen amongst Republican candidates. And so, yeah, like you said, I think a lot of people are waking up to it because you're forcing it on them to admit that no, this isn't racist to support this. This is actually factually true that people should legally come into our country, and if you want them to follow the law, chances are if they're coming in by breaking the law, it's not going to go over too well. But that's what this country is learning. They're learning these lessons the tough way. I want to talk about the DOJ, though, with you, because obviously the DOJ was gunning for you. It was a persecution, not a prosecution. And I think everyone needs to drive home that point. When I talk to J6ers, everyone would go over about how like last minute evidence dumps bloated.
All right.
Where a couple of days before the big trial, they would get all these documents that are humanly impossible for you to go over. And inside it would be like a gem that you would need to defend yourself. And if you weren't properly staffed with attorneys and their office is properly staffed, you might not be able to present that evidence at your trial. And that's one of the many ways that they were able to railroad you, even forcing trials into the Oath Keepers trial. Their attorneys were like, hold on a second, we're not ready yet. We need to look at the footage. We need footage. We haven't gotten all of our evidence yet. And the judge just continued to just push it through. So during your trial, were there any?
That's the other thing that's absolutely blows my mind is you had trials where the evidence wasn't even presented to both sides. That's another thing I heard about these trials is that the video footage was withheld because Congress refused to release it. The testimony of people there was withheld because Congress told them not to talk to anybody. And if they did, they had to sign like NDAs and stuff like that, that it wouldn't be released. It's absolutely insane. And the judge is like, yeah, evidence? We don't need no evidence. We saw what was put out. That's got to be evidence, right? What's on video? Evidence. And if you remember, the video footage from that time was 100% different than what was released after Tucker Carlson released it on Fox. It's just nuts.
Things that really kind of stood out that, and I joke when I say that because I know there was a lot, but is there anything that really stood out that you thought the DOJ was railroading you guys?
Everything.
Rihanna, we only got an hour.
Well, you could just take the whole day.
Yeah, we could take the whole day when we talk about my trial. Again, it went on for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then there was multiple things. I mean, the Telegram chats were, I guess, their main piece of evidence.
Telegram chats. Never used Telegram.
The files were corrupt. The judge allowed him to go through anyways.
Wow.
I don't know if anybody is.
I've never used Telegram.
Have used Telegram, but like if I go ahead and I message you and I'm like, "Do you like chocolate cake?" and you type yes, a year later I can go back to that conversation and edit what I wrote instead of "Do you like chocolate cake?" I'm like, "Do you want to format an insurrection?" And you wrote yes.
I didn't know.
Well, on the Telegram app, it'll show that it's edited, right? But when Celebrite extracts that information, that data point that text is edited is not available.
Wow.
So there was a lot of, and it didn't, I'm not saying it happened very often, but the possibility of that
makes it questionable.
We have a really big group.
No, I see. Yeah. And that makes the evidence questionable. What he's trying to say is if the evidence is out there and it could be edited, then it's questionable. That's like, I'm doing this video reaction live. If I put a video out there, I can time the edits right where you won't see any skips, and I could show you him saying specific things that you don't hear. I could have him talking and do a voiceover. That's the questionability of certain forms of content. And that's why we do something like this on live streaming, so you can see it. But I see what he's getting at. Basically, those text messages, those messages themselves could have been edited.
These are chats with thousands of people in it. I mean, it looks, if you go into a Proud Boy chat, a big group chat, it looks like a treadmill. Okay, I don't know how people keep up with it. I just got back on Telegram and I can't look at my phone. But that's just
why would you still use the app
on that too much? But that was the biggest piece.
Why would you still use it?
Other things we saw with Special Agent Nicole Miller that took the stand. She perjured herself many times. She was listening into attorney-client privilege phone calls of Zachary Real. She tried to hide it from us. So when she sent us it was a spreadsheet of her text messages with other FBI agents. Well, she was supposed to delete the things that weren't relevant, but instead of hitting delete, she hit hide. So
Yeah,
one of
I
our
remember this.
attorneys by the name of Nick Smith, which is an amazing attorney, second to my attorneys. He is a really good attorney, but he's like, wait, there's something hidden here. Let me unhide it. All the messages that were hidden were still about the case. So we're like, okay, perfect. This is a mistrial. We're 3 months into trial because it took them.
It could have been a mistrial. It probably should have been.
And judge was like, no. Another thing that happened in our case was there was.
You fucking kidding me, dude?
Multiple FBI informants that were in the witness list. When you turn in the witness list, you turn in the witness list before trial starts.
Yeah.
So that everybody sees it.
Yeah.
So they waited till I called that witness. A day before I called that witness, they're like, hey, we just want to tell you something. That witness that you're calling tomorrow, it's an FBI informant, and you can't ask them about it. And I'm like,
wow. Wait. Isn't that like dangerous? Because now they know who the informant is. Informant. They knew who the person is. Like, wouldn't they be like, yeah, we can't call these witnesses because of whatever reason, but now, oh yeah, hey, we can't call them because they've actually been spying in your organization this entire time. Wow.
There was also the deal with the FBI informants. They had, I think the number is 26 FBI informants embedded within the Proud Boys.
Yeah.
And, that's a big problem, but it's not a big problem when you're not a criminal organization. So these FBI informants, you know how many of them the prosecutors brought, like to take the stand against us?
All 26?
How many?
0.
What?
Because the FBI informants themselves were like, wait, no, these guys didn't plan this.
The FBI's own informants, they didn't call any of them to testify. Oh my God, what a shit show.
These aren't violent guys. Are there bad apples? I'm here. I admit to you that there are bad apples in the Proud Boys. I wholeheartedly agree. And, my guys are pretty rowdy. I could get along with 70% of them, but when you have a group this large, you gotta be able to. But we called it out. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
But these FBI informants that have been embedded for the group for years had nothing bad to say about us. So they didn't bring them up. So we had to bring them up. And when we brought him up, one of these FBI informants that was in the Proud Boys for years was a person that played a major role inside the Capitol. He actually got a pedestal and he stopped a garage door from closing, which gave the rest of the people access to.
Wait a second. Are you telling me an FBI informant actively assisted in January 6th so people could gain access to other locations? Dude, that's fucked. That's utterly crazy.
Other areas of the Capitol that weren't accessible before. And when we ask them, we're like, well, are you allowed to do this? Yes, they are allowed to commit crimes in order to further their information.
So like an FBI informant could commit a crime, even if this got charged as like an insurrection, say it was treasonous, say it was all these things. He aided in that and he could do that? Like, what if the crime that he needed to do to maintain his cover was murder or something? Are they allowed to do that shit? Dude, that's fucking sketchy, dude. Oh my God.
But I can go on about all the things that happened in my trial. So you got to remember that this is the biggest in U.S. history. This is the biggest operation by the Department of Justice, the most amount of indictments for political cause, the biggest amount of evidence. I mean, there was terabytes and terabytes. When we received our it's hard to go through. We got 26 terabytes of just
26 terabytes. Wow,
pictures,
dude.
files, all sorts of shit. So it was a lot to go through.
And I think it's intentional. I think that's a part of the strategy. It's just to dump everything on you guys so you guys can't see what you need to see.
Last minute.
I'm so glad she's not talking much because she talks so damn fast Oh my God.
And I think that's the part that I don't think a lot of Americans understand. You know, that when you hear the rebuttal from the corporate media hacks, they're all saying, oh, well, he had a trial, they found him guilty, so all is fair and game. But you don't have a moment to go through all of that evidence. And a lot of it's nothing that's relevant in the first place. It's just dumping to waste time. And also,
let's also disregard the fact that the perjury, the evidence that wasn't allowed to be brought, the witnesses that weren't allowed to be brought, like ignoring the videotapes, which would have proven things differently completely. It was just a complete and utter shit show trial.
Also, to eventually your lawyer is going to bill you for it and it's going to bankrupt you because you have to pay these legal fees on top of everything. And people don't like to talk about that.
So that's a tactic of like civil litigation. You know, we hadn't really seen it in criminal litigation by the DOJ until these cases came along where they just do a file dump at such a magnitude. I mean, I've been sued, and a whole bunch of J6ers have been sued. I mean, I right now with judgments owned, I think I'm in like the 8 or 9 figures. You know,
wow.
No, 8 figures. Let me know.
Just imagine the legal fees.
It is a tactic usually reserved for civil litigation.
I gotta put my slippers on, my feet are cold.
And they do it to you mid-trial.
Yeah.
What can you do? The judge is like, well, it's new evidence. I have to let it sit.
Yeah.
So we can't postpone the trial. We can't do anything. Let's go. Let's move forward. It's a miscarriage of justice.
Yeah.
And any of those judges need to be prosecuted too.
At least investigated.
Let me not say prosecuted.
Like
most
investigated.
Of these people need to be investigated.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and I think people are going to say, "Oh, well, he's asking for retribution." I'm not asking for retribution. I'm asking for investigation.
Right.
If you, like,
for those who don't really know the difference, like these people need to be investigated to find out if anything else was going on. Like, I don't remember the name of the judge. There was a judge who was convicting minors in New York, sending them to juvenile hall because he was getting kickbacks on like every kid he sent to juvenile hall. And some of them were getting many years in juvenile hall and they were released when they're 18. But he was doing this because everyone he sent there, he was getting money for it. Like, these judges should probably be investigated, honestly.
Like they did to us. If you didn't do anything wrong, you shouldn't have anything to worry about.
Yeah, right. That's what they always say. But then they all ran so quick when Joe Biden was asking for, I gotta be careful with that. Joe Biden was asking who wants a pardon. I know. I'm like, hold on before we go. I worked for a news station and I tried my best to hold out and not call him President Joe Biden. I tried my very best.
Well, he was former President Joe Biden. He was president for 4 years.
It's crazy. So I want to talk a little bit. I want to ask you, you mentioned that the FBI special agent, Nicole Miller, I think you said her name was?
Nicole Miller.
Was listening in on calls that were between you and your attorney.
That means Zachary Real.
Okay, got it. Do you know how she was able to listen? Was it FISA or was it just a regular warrant tap?
There was the use of FISA, but we weren't.
I don't know what FISA is.
Certain aspects of it that we weren't allowed to view, and honestly, I don't know the.
Hold on, I gotta figure out what that is. Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of the 1978 regulates certain types of foreign intelligence collection, including certain collections that occur with compelling assistance from the U.S. telecommunications companies. So they use like cell phone companies, internet providing companies to get information.
My attorney would know more on that aspect, but yes, FISA was used against American citizens. I think there was a congressman that just said FISA courts aren't used against American citizens. Bullshit.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
bullshit. That's bullshit. That's perjury.
Yeah.
Should be investigated.
Should be. Should be investigated.
I'm trying to put everybody in jail. No, I'm not. I'm really not. Investigation. But yeah, we found that out. I mean, you find that out the hard way. The only reason that we knew that there was 26 informants, it wasn't because they told us.
Yeah.
It was because we forced the judge because they didn't want it. They're like, no, we can't tell you who our informants are. And the judge.
You're not a child.
Okay, gonna mute this.
His one act of kindness.
Gotta love my stream deck.
Went ahead and said, hey, you have to go. And we couldn't even get the evidence. I couldn't see it personally. They had to go to an FBI field office and view it in a secure room with an FBI agent in front of them. They could take notes. Well, They could take notes, but they couldn't take any documents with.
Wow.
And they couldn't tell me, their client, the names of these informants, right?
And I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't know if that's such a bad thing, because there are situations when people who are informants in criminal organizations, gangs, stuff like that, and if they were to tell somebody, hey, guess what? This person's an informant. This person's an informant. Here are the names. Say that person goes to jail. Say that person has counsel outside, and that legal counsel is affiliated with them. And they're like, oh, we know who the snitches and rats are? Hold on. All right, take this name, give it to my guys. That's why they're not telling you. So there's a reason they're not allowed to tell you. Don't just think that it's like, oh, we're not supposed to do that. There's a very good reason for that, because people have become informants for criminal organizations, and it ended badly for them,
because it would put them at risk. And I mean, it's bullshit.
Yeah, well, you're supposed to be able to face your accusers. And so one would think you'd be able to have access to these informants.
In
theory,
in fairy tale America, you're supposed to face your accusers. So what I learned,
in theory, yeah,
is this has been happening for a long time.
Yeah,
what they did to J6ers, we're like super surprised about it. We shouldn't be.
One thing I will firmly state, though, not everybody at January 6th was a saint. The majority of them did nothing wrong. There were some of them who broke windows, who assaulted officers. This isn't them. The majority of them did nothing wrong, and this is why the majority of them were pardoned. Not every one of them. Depends on the crime, depends on what they did. Like it was even proven that through video footage and matching of faces, some members of Antifa who went to many BLM riots and started riots were there at January 6th, and they instigated things. They started fights. They had Molotov cocktails and stuff like that. And so not everybody was pardoned. Let that be clear, because not everybody there was a saint. There were some people who did serious crimes, and those people should have gone to jail for them.
Surprised about it. The American government, the reason why they're able to do what they did is because they've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
They know how to do this. And they've done it to many, many political movements, political figures. You got Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. You have so many that, the siege at Waco. These are people that were investigated for doing legal actions that should be legal in fairy tale America. And it
still blows my mind.
Because of being investigated, prosecuted, it turns into crimes because of how they react. And I'll be honest, like, how else are people supposed to react? I'm pretty calm, cool, collected, but put somebody else in my shoes that doesn't have throttle control, and it would have been a bad situation.
I like to think of myself a pretty calm person, except when I'm playing Overwatch. That infuriated me this morning. I like to think of myself as a very calm person, very neutral person. I like to see both sides of a piece before I ever give my 2 cents on. And this is one of the reasons why we're watching this video, because I've only seen what's come out in the media about January 6th, about what they did and how the people involved were treated. And I want to hear it from a firsthand account of the person who got the highest sentence. But if I was in a trial and I was getting railroaded like this, if I saw jury members who had a personal vendetta against me, if I saw evidence being intentionally withheld to just make the trial go faster, stuff that would have proven me innocent, if I would have been handed a sentence of 22 years because the DOJ wanted to give 33 when I wasn't even there, and they can't prove that it was organized or that I organized it, I probably would have lost my shit.
When you do this to somebody, when you put somebody in jail for this, you have to ask yourself, if I do, as the prosecuting party, if I do this, will this person rationalize by the punishment, or am I going to radicalize them by the punishment? And
it might radicalize it, especially at the time.
That I rationalized. I can't tell you I came out of prison a better person.
No,
I couldn't come out a better person.
I would have come out angry. I would have come out angry.
All these J6ers are good people.
Not all of them. Some of them were criminals. As he said,
what happened was fucked up.
It was.
And the treatment.
That's my thing. He just got done telling us, like, he gets along with like 70% of them. There are bad apples. Not Not everybody who was there was a saint. And I mean, I'll be the first one to say that.
Maybe I had it good compared to other J6ers. I don't know. I'm not here to measure dicks. But we saw what the system was.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need an overhaul. It needs to be destroyed and built from the ground up again.
Yeah,
and we're supposed to have faith in our justice system. And at this point, after following all these trials, because I started off,
I don't have faith in our justice system right now.
One of you guys at the beginning part and all of this, and I start following. I'm watching all you guys get railroaded at your trials, and it's not the system that we all think it is. And I think that's the point we need to drive home here. A lot of Americans.
And that's my point too. That's the whole reason why I'm live reacting to this video, is because I've heard the stories of how these people were treated in the trial, outside of trial. We haven't got to that part yet where he was actually in prison. But like, I've heard these stories of these people were literally like treated as if they were foreign terrorists in our own nation, in an event that people portrayed and stated was an insurrection, an act of terrorism, but nobody was ever charged with an insurrection or act of terrorism. So therefore, if it wasn't either of those, and say it was just at the very least trespassing, there's the incident again, BLM. There's the time, I think it was in 2019, when AOC stormed the Capitol with a bunch of climate protesters and stormed in and barged their way into, who was speaker at the time? Pelosi, I think. Pelosi's office. I think it was in 2019. I could be wrong. But she stormed into the Capitol with a bunch of climate protesters. Where's that insurrection? They literally broke in the door, went to her office. They interrupted government proceedings, which the majority of these people were charged with. Why is she not in jail? Why is she still serving in Congress? Like, I don't have much faith in our legal system at this point, because it all depends on who's out there, what's the trending topic, and if the judge honestly gives two damns, or if he just wants to throw you away to seem like he's a superstar social media wise.
Americans think that our justice system is blind, but it's not blind. And the prosecutors know exactly how to manipulate it their way. And they did just that against all of you. And I think it's gut wrenching. I want to talk about treatment, because I think that's a big point too with you. You know, I think you endured the worst. I've talked to a lot of J6ers, and I don't think anyone's had to go through what you've gone through. You've been transferred to about 30 to 40 different prisons all around the country. The First Step Act, which is supposed to keep you within a certain radius from your home, didn't work out for you. They violated that. That was President Trump's first term policy that he was able to push through. That didn't work out for you.
Wow.
There was also solitary confinement, which was used as a weapon against you at this point.
Isn't that
you were
torture?
held in solitary, which is you by yourself, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, for 23 hours by yourself.
No, I'll correct that.
Yeah, go.
So I'll correct that first, and then we'll go over it. But it's not 23 hours a day; it's 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day.
24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay? Every 3 days, you get let out for 15 minutes to take a shower, and even that's supposed to be the rule. There was this moment in Petersburg, Virginia, where I went 3 weeks with no soap, no shower, no toothpaste, no toothbrush, no deodorant. I mean, I looked and smelled like an ape.
And I mean, I've been there when I was going through training. I've been in field exercises where I'm out there for a week and we can't shower because there's no water source to use that. The only water source we have has to be drinkable water. So I've been in situations where I couldn't wash my hair. I couldn't brush my teeth. I couldn't bathe properly. I couldn't do proper hygiene because of the fact that we could not waste water. It's obviously a training environment, but like, I would have to go get my canteen, which in my case, it was a water bottle. I'd go get my water bottle, and it was bigger than that. It's like a 32-ounce water bottle I carry around. I got a bigger one now that's 64 ounces because of this. And I would literally fill that up, and I would take a little cup, pour a little water in it. That's how I brush my teeth. At the end, rinse my mouth out, spit it out, brush my teeth. I would then take a little bit of water, pour it on my head, soap, lather. I eventually found out about dry shampoo, which you don't require water. That's a lifesaver. And yeah, and then you just do basic hygiene. I take another cup of water, pour it onto a washcloth, and I would just basically wipe myself down. You'll learn to do that. But he doesn't even get that opportunity So, I mean, even I feel like I had it good because, yeah, I was doing military exercises, training, and what have you. But like, I at least had access to some water to clean myself. And some products I had, he had nothing. He was in solitary confinement, a dark room, probably dark. He didn't say that. He was in a room alone for 24 hours a day and let out every 3 days to shower for 15 minutes. That's torture. Like, that's flat out torture.
And
again, for a crime, he wasn't even at the location to have committed.
The transit, it's called diesel therapy. And what they do is they keep you in transit so you won't be in one place comfortably as punishment. And it's probably like the worst punishment because you don't get comfortable. And to some point, and the most insidious thing about this whole thing, and I hate it, is how easy someone gets used to it. So it wasn't torture to me anymore as much as just kick back and relax. I remember my last experience.
I mean, you're looking at like a car ride.
It's not supposed to be funny, but it was funny to me. Is my last experience was, and it happened like 2-3 months ago. I was back in the DC gulag, and
they actually called it a gulag.
They had to transfer me over to Pollock, Louisiana.
From DC to Louisiana,
and they had to bring me to Kentucky. It's a 14-hour drive from DC to Grayson County, Kentucky. And it's the first time in a long time that I was able to be with J6ers. So they filled the bus with J6ers. You know, I was super happy about that because it's cool to talk to J6ers. I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, they're a bunch of rock stars in the prison system.
Yeah.
They're hailed as heroes in the prison system.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm in the bus and we're in box cuffs. And if you don't know what box cuffs are, I suggest you guys Google it.
Hold on. Okay. I don't know what a box cuff is. Box cuff. Is this it? This is what I found. I doubt it's a box of cuffs. So it's handcuffs that you can't move your wrists. Jeez. I mean, so you're basically like this. No matter what, like you can't rotate your wrist. Like you probably could like move your wrists like this, but maybe touch your hands, but you can't like do any of this stuff. Oh, there we go. There we go. Picture right here. So that's box cuffs. Wow. That sucks.
Torture device. It's literally a pair of handcuffs that has a box over it, so it keeps your hands locked in a certain position. You can't.
You know what that kind of reminds me of? Like the medieval, like you see the medieval movies where they got the guy in the thing where his hands and his arm and his head are like in this wooden thing, or you see the people walking and they got a piece of wood that's like cuffs. It like goes over and they lock it so you can't move. That's what it reminds me of. I don't know if that's considered torture, but you can't move your arms. Your arms are stationary. You can only like move like this. You know, you have to move everything all together, but that's a little freaking ridiculous.
You can't turn your wrists. You can't bring them together. And on top of that, you have a leather belt on and they're placed like this.
Oh.
So you can't. If my nose itches, which is the worst.
You can't scratch it because you can't even move it from your freaking waist.
Like an itchy nose is
like, because how do you can't, you gotta like do this in order to get that.
I'm used to this. I've been doing this for 3 years.
Yeah.
So these J6 had just come in. They were fresh. You know, they were fresh meat because they had just got
terrible term.
Or the judges remanded them to the marshal's custody. So when they're in there, they're like, they're bawling. They're like, what the hell is this? This is torture. They're going crazy. I'm sitting in the back with a bologna sandwich, tossing it back and forth, eating it, just hanging out.
I mean, you gotta think it. Someone who's never experienced like that.
multiple times.
I mean, I would do that too.
Is that they force you to do that? They don't make stops.
They don't make stops because they can't once they.
So how you can tell someone has always been a civilian ever since the military? You're in a convoy, and that convoy ain't gonna be stopping nowhere. You don't make stops. That's what them water bottles are for. Look up piss bottles.
Lock you in, they can't open that door because they have us labeled as domestic terrorists. So they have us.
So service members are also domestic terrorists.
I couldn't go on the regular BOP bus. I couldn't go with regular inmates. I had to be transferred with two marshals.
We had to use piss bottles.
Or
I've had to be on convoys that took hours
because they're all deputy marshals.
And I've had to go and I had to use a bottle.
Marshal-approved officers in transit, right? And once they close the door, put those chains on you, they're not taking them off. And
pro tip,
again, this
pro tip: you ever on a long drive, you ever in something like that, and you got to do it. Don't pull your pants down and take a leak in the bottle. You take the bottle and you put it on the inside of your leg, put your thing in there, and then you just do your business right there, and you grab it and then pull it out from the inside of your leg. Don't take your whole pants off because you're just gonna have to fight to get them back on.
It's cynical
pro tip.
Shit, but I mean, imagine eating a bologna sandwich. I become a professional on this. Imagine eating a bologna sandwich. Imagine having to urinate. And I could say piss on here.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Free speech.
Free speech.
Well, that's why we're 18 plus.
Imagine having to take a piss in a water bottle.
Done it.
Okay. On in a moving van.
Done it.
In box cuffs.
LMTV.
You gotta pull your pants down.
Nope. Did it wrong.
I don't know if the mic's gonna catch it. You gotta kind of lean like this and like pee into the bottle. I pissed all over the
Not on the bologna sandwich though.
No, I'm sure I did not.
Bad joke.
At least we can clarify
but I did
that.
piss all over the band, which that means you deserve it.
Yeah.
But I'll go back to the story. We're in transit and they're wailing these 14 hours. And I'm
Thank you, Richard.
All right, mute.
Kick back. I'm like, dude, just relax. Don't worry about it. This was after President Trump got elected.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to say President Trump because he's actually been president for like 10 years already. 8 years.
I'm not one of those people. Look, like, I'm not going to get into the whole 2020 election, all that stuff, but those people like Trump never left office. Yes, he did. He wasn't the president from 2020 to 2024. Biden was president. He was there. That's you're acting just like those people. Like, Trump's never my president. You're doing the same exact petty crap that those other people are doing. Look, President Trump 2016 to 2020, Biden 2020 to 2024, and Trump is president now. You could say President Donald Trump because he's currently our president. I think that stuff is just so petty and stupid.
Never be president-elect.
So 3 terms. We got 3 terms.
See, now you sound like one of those idiots.
You know, and then we get to Grayson County, Kentucky for 14 hours. And we get there, we go into the holding cell, they finally take these things off, and everybody's like, God, I could breathe. And then suddenly the deputy comes in. He goes, hey, okay, you guys are staying, blah, blah, blah. We're going to put you guys in the shoe because you're a bunch of fucking domestic terrorists. And he's like, but you, Tarrio, don't get comfortable. We're leaving. And I'm like, where are we going? Pollock, Louisiana. And everybody's like, what? You're leaving again? He didn't even
Kentucky
eat
to
anything.
Louisiana now?
Like we didn't stop and eat there.
So he went from Pennsylvania, I think it was Pennsylvania down.
And I'm like, hey,
now he's going back up to
far?
Louisiana
cool.
or over to Louisiana.
I'm like, how far is Pollock? He's like, oh, it's another like 12, 13 hours. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to get to my spot. You know, my thing was, I just wanted to get there. I'm going to get to my spot and I was finally going to hit commissary or whatever. But these guys are like, yo, listen. And they brought me back to reality. They're like, dude, you just did 14 hours of box cuffs in the van, and you're going to do another 12, 13 hours on here. And I did the 12, 13 hours. I was actually happy at that point. Again, sinister.
Dude, that's like fucking, that is like torture. Imagine, just put yourself in his shoes. You have your hands, like you can't see because my mic's here, cuffed to your waist for 14 hours. And then they're like, you get it off. Oh, moment of freedom. No, except you. Put them back on. You're going back for another 12 to 13. 27 hours like this with box cuffs around your waist. 27 hours. He got a sandwich. That was it. He didn't have no breakfast, lunch, or he didn't have no breakfast, no dinner probably. And he had to pee in a bottle 27 hours driving in a van. Are you serious, man?
Because I was finally somewhere where I knew I was going to get released from there. So I was happy about it.
And that was recently?
It was at the end, it was like 27 hours or 26 hours in box cuffs. You're only supposed to put an inmate, the worst inmates in the world. Pedophiles, rapists, all sorts of shit. Even if they have those box cuffs, they're only supposed to wear them for 4 hours.
Hold on. I can't find anything that states that he can be in them no more than 4 hours. Yeah, I got nothing.
Maximum.
I can't validate that. I can't prove that.
Box cuffs for 27 hours. It feels like your bones are being bent at all times. There's no reprieve. There's no, hey, let's take a break. Hey, I'm going to take these off of you. There's none of that. It doesn't exist. And I did that for 3 years. That wasn't my first rodeo. Again, I was used to it.
That's the worst part, man. He did this for 3 fucking years.
Yeah.
And again, I was excited to get to my destination.
Well, it's torture. I mean, there's no other way to
I would look at that
it.
as
It's
torture.
It's intentionally being done, and those within the Bureau of Prisons need to be held accountable. And it's really infuriating that that they think they can get away with it because someone's calling the shots on them.
They're not going to get away.
They're not going to get away with it. We'll make sure.
Well, I mean, unless Biden pardoned them. I mean, I heard that's already happened to quite a few people have been charged with anything.
That. But I mean, the fact that there's someone calling the shots, probably someone who's not within the prison itself, but they're telling just keep shuffling them around because there's purpose in all of this. There's a goal here while they're doing it. They're trying to break you, and they're trying to potentially create an issue for you, and maybe create a situation where you might break and want to work with prosecutors potentially.
Mm-hmm.
I know you and I
have one of the points.
Yes. And that's what I wanted to kind of get to with this because, you and I have spoken. I think I reached out to you. It was right after your sentencing. Because I talk about it all the time on my show.
I didn't want to do any media before sentencing.
Yeah, you always
I
wait.
played by all the rules. I was like, my attorney's like, hey, don't talk to the media before trial. I played by all the rules and stuff like that. And I didn't do any media. After sentencing, I was like, that shit.
Yeah.
This judge, the prosecutor, but went ham. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you have a right to feel that way. So it's funny because I would wait till everyone was sentenced and I'd reach out to them. And a lot of people just don't understand how it works. You guys actually, and when you were in the DC gulag, had tablets with you, from my understanding.
Yeah.
And so you're able to receive messages. And so once you were sentenced, I did reach out to you to talk about all of this. And you and I have had several conversations throughout the entire process. And you made me.
So wait, while they were in prison, they were allowed access to tablets? I mean, that's kind of a luxury in my opinion, but all right.
Aware of something that I've never heard before, and it exclusively came from you, that you were kind of, and I'll let you detail the story, but the Department of Injustice wanted you to work with them to go after President Trump. You were going to be used as a tool to prosecute him. Heard before, and it exclusively came from you, that you were kind of, and I'll
hold on. The reason I went back here is because this is one of the rumors I heard about. Is like they kept offering these guys, these January 6 people, deals to try to get them to say that they were working with President Trump, like they were in cahoots with him. He was involved in it. That's one of the rumors I heard. That's why I wanted to replay it, make sure I heard it correctly.
I'll let you detail the story, but the Department of Injustice wanted you to work with them to go after President Trump. You were going to be used as a tool to prosecute him and his J6 trial. So I'm going to hand the floor to you so you could tell this story, because it's remarkable that this even happened in the first place.
So, and that's what we'll go into the torture thing.
Yeah.
That's how and a lot of people caved in. A lot of people caved in. They're like, look, I don't want to do this. And they caved in. And, you know, I could have been home earlier. And this is what they do. They tell you a story, right? And they did this with a lot of J6ers. They tell you a story. They're like, this is a story. This is what it is. Do you agree with this? And you'll be like, well, it's just point C is true, but point A, B, D, E, F, Z is not true. They're like, well, okay, deal's off the table. If this isn't truth, if this isn't the truth, then we're not going to give you any.
So they're fabricating a story, hoping these people would approve to do it. And if they didn't agree to it, then, oh yeah, no, never mind. How the hell is how? So they're not trying to get the truth. They're trying to make a truth. That's wild.
They're not. The Justice Department is supposed to be seekers of truth.
Yeah.
The blind
lady, the lady with the scale,
the little
and the gavel
scale that doesn't exist.
Wow.
They're supposed to be seekers of truth. So when you do that to somebody, what you're doing is, listen, just say what's on this fucking paper and we'll send you home. You'll get bail. And we can put this behind us.
Wow.
You do that to the most powerful person in the country, and he wasn't technically president at that time. You do that, and you are committing an act of treason. Could you
freaking imagine that? Could you imagine you're sitting there and you're face to face with the Department of Justice. You're sitting there and they go, here you go. This is a story. And like he said, like one part's true, but the rest is just complete and utter horse crap. You're telling me that actually freaking like you see movies of like corrupt judges, lawmakers and like mafia people doing that crap. And you're telling me that's a real freaking thing? Man. Yeah, I don't have much faith in the justice system.
Currently working with a false government that is trying to jail their dissidents. We saw with President Trump what they did with all these bullshit charges. A lot of people deify President Trump. You know, they puts an altar, puts a little candle. I don't do that. I don't do it. And it makes it so much more amazing because the fact that he's human and he's been able to fight back and he's been able to win 100% of the time is beyond anything I've ever seen. It's pretty inspiring, to be honest with you. And I took that inspiration when they did that, where they put that paper in front of me and they're like, this is the truth. I'd be like, no, actually, none of it's accurate.
Wow.
You can go home if you do that. I'll give you bail. And told him to go kick rocks.
Yeah. I told him to go kick rocks. Yeah.
I wasn't going to do it.
That's insane.
But a lot of people did, not specifically with President Trump. And I'll give one example. I hold no ill feelings towards it. This is a time to be happy.
I'd hold ill feelings. I'd be rip shit.
Connotation sheet, there was a personal friend of mine. His name's
I'd be 100% pissed if this happened to me.
Testified in trial. And there's a level to snitching, right? One thing is that you go ahead and you like
ears are hard,
say something and you become an informant or whatever. And I myself did a couple things back in 2013. I'm sure we'll touch, but then there's the ones that take the stand and point the finger at you, right? But there's another level that's so nefarious and so evil. And I saw evil that day. He took the stand, and not only did he point the finger, but he lied. He sat there and he lied. He knows that we did not plan this. He knows that there was no intention.
We got an ad coming in a couple seconds. Hold on.
What happened that day?
Muted.
Wasn't intentional. It was a protest gone wrong.
Good thing these ads are only a few seconds.
I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to condone like assaults on police officers. I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to do it. Did these guys deserve to get prison time? I tell you, absolutely not, because the system's rigged.
Some of them probably did, but
he
not
lied
all
about
of them.
The whole thing, and to get his time off, he's not going to do any time. And the president commuted his sentence before he was sentenced. I don't know how the process works. I don't know if he still has to go to sentencing and he gets that commuted. But he should go through what we went through, because like we went through hell.
It sounds like you went through torture.
Benedict Arnold, but it all works out at the end.
Yeah.
Because the payback is he can't really
can't take it back.
He can't have pride in his name. I have a lot of pride in my family name. So does the Nordines. So do the Biggs. So do the Reals. So do the Pizzolas. You know, any J6er's last name, they have pride in their name. But the Bertinos and the Donahos and the Greens, like, you can't use your last name. And I don't wish him any ill will. I hope he's extremely successful in life, but I doubt it, because he can't show his face anymore. He's a liar.
Wow.
And he's a traitor. But again, I don't hold any ill will.
Yeah, but could you imagine that? Like, in this situation, all right, let's just put ourselves in these shoes, right? Someone goes up, fabricates a story, completely lies about it, and then the presidency that was over that one ends. The proof comes out it was completely fabricated. And what do you do at that point? That your name is out there, your face is out there, and everybody knows you're nothing but a liar, and you'll say anything to just get someone thrown in prison. Just a heads up, everyone, about less than 5 minutes, we're going to do another ad. We'll do the same thing as last time. I'll pause the video and I'll bring it back when we come back from the ad break.
There's a lot of pressure for those who are dealing with the prosecution that you guys all endured. And so, you know, it's a common theme that I've heard of people taking deals that they normally wouldn't have taken, maybe stretching the truth just to comply with whatever the DOJ wanted to do to get them off their back. And so I think that, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I wasn't opposed to taking not that deal, but like a plea deal. I wasn't opposed to taking it if it was like fuck you, I sign it, whatever, let's get it done.
He's talking about like selling a lie for a deal.
11 years. I wasn't going to take that.
Well, I want to talk about this because I think this is an important part here. The plea deal that they were offering you, from my understanding, was that they were going to try to get you to discuss President Trump's involvement in January 6th, as if there was a connection between you and President Trump. Was that what was on that piece of paper when they slid it your way?
Yes.
And they said, do you agree? Okay, so that was when they proposed 11 years for you?
No, I wouldn't have done any jail time. Period. 0.
Wow.
If that was the case. And I could have been in my...
That's how you can tell that it's so fucking corrupt, dude. That you make up the story that a political figure, a wealthy businessman, he was involved in this. You make up this story and you get no jail time. Time served. 22 years forgotten about. Can you fucking imagine that? At that point, you got to be like, yep, this don't smell right. Because if he said that, if he would have agreed to that and that would have went to trial, he would have been in that position who told the lie, and he would have been the face that nobody could ever trust or ever want to see. My God.
Warm bed. I could have been eating good food, which is overrated. I ate my first burger yesterday, and dude, I didn't even finish half of it. But yeah, I have no connection to the president. As much as I would love to have a connection, be like, hey, what's up, dog?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna go to the Oval later.
Yeah.
I have no connection to the president. You know, I'm not
one of his special
I'm
friends.
not that important.
But they wanted you to draw a line between you and the president and January 6th. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And they were hoping that you were going to do so with somebody between the two of you because they knew that you didn't know President Trump directly,
right?
From what you've told me.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to dive into that a little bit. And obviously, I know that this is something that's going to be going on for quite some time for you. So I know you can't dive into all details.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about that because I think that's what the American people want to hear, how desperate the DOJ was to go after President Trump, put him in prison, and to destroy him so he couldn't run for president this time around.
And that's the worst fucking part, dude. They're trying to make this about him. They're trying to make this like this is Trump's trial. This is Trump's case. This is all about Trump. When another person who wasn't involved in it, they're trying to make it seem like he's involved in it. It's just so fucking crooked, dude.
At the end of the day, that was the goal, right?
Yeah.
The goal was to take, and I completely understand this tactic. I don't think America's ready to use it, but the Democrats already have used it. The goal of the game, right? Because it's a game. The goal of the game is to take the other opponent's pieces off the field, right? They did that with J6ers. But the main piece, the king piece, was still alive. And they wanted to take that piece out, whether it was by hook, by crook, or by a sniper rifle in the hands of a 21-year-old. Or I forgot what that old dude.
In Palm Beach.
Whatever. They tried to
person
kill
in
him.
Florida.
Yeah.
They try to indict him. They need to take out the king to play this game.
Yeah.
That's not a game that the United States is built for. We're a republic, right? We make our changes on the ballot box. We saw that in November.
Right.
Now it's our turn for the next 4 years. I don't want to play that game, but that's the game that they're playing.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it if everybody's okay with it, but America's not okay with it.
No, America's tired of it, and we saw that at the election.
That was the goal. The goal was to get the.
All right, everyone. Ads coming up. I'm going to pause it here. All right, so I'm going to pause it here. Ads coming up. All right. While the ad plays, I'm going to take these off, kind of arrow my ears a little bit, overheating. But that's absolutely wild. So, and that's the thing that just solidifies that this entire thing was blown up, and they put these sentences on these people, not so much because they committed a crime, but because they wanted to tie this to Trump. That is the worst part. These people, they're not innocent. They were there. They participated in the event. They got arrested. And they went through this whole process. And when they went through this entire process, it was absolutely nothing but a witch hunt, because they're trying to make these sentences seem so bad that if they do, you have no option but to say Trump was involved in this. And that's the worst freaking part, man. Like, it's just infuriating. That's absolutely infuriating that they want to go out and they want to take these people, like Enrique Tarrio, is that how you say his name? Yeah, Enrique Tarrio. They want to take him. He's a convicted felon now. Understand that. It doesn't matter if his sentence, like he was pardoned. He's still a convicted felon. He is a felon who he has been convicted of a felony. He cannot possess firearms. He cannot do certain things, like certain freedoms and liberties that we all have are taken away because of this. And it's ridiculous that this was all just a puppet show, and he just happened to be the biggest puppet they could get their hands on. So they threw at him a 22-year sentence when he wasn't even in the state when the thing happened, January 6th. And it was all just to get at Trump. That's all it was to just get at Trump. Like, how do you look at someone, you're treating them like a terrorist, a domestic terrorist. You're treating them this way. You're torturing them. You're throwing their life away in front of their eyes, and sign this piece of paper that says Trump was involved and it all goes away. Are you serious? How can we have faith in the justice system if that's what's going to happen? Because how do I not know Like, I could be going down the road in my vehicle, and I get pulled over, and not this. This is hypothetical. None of this is true. Hypothetical, and like I get like a dirty cop, right? Who I'm talking to, I'm nice, hands on the steering wheel. I'm like, oh, I'm going to reach in my glove box. I'm just going to grab my registration. Yep, go right ahead. Do you have any weapons in the vehicle? I'm like, yep, I have something in my center console right there. I'm allowed to open carry, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it goes, get out of the vehicle. He's reaching for a gun, blah, blah, blah. And then they just like, it all goes ballistic, yanks me out of the vehicle, throws me in jail. And they like say, hey, do you know who it says here that you voted for this person? If you say that this person's involved in this, we'll make this all go away. How are you supposed to have, I'm not saying that happened. I'm not saying that did happen to him or anything, but I'm saying, how are you supposed to have faith in your legal system knowing that people who weren't even there are being charged and convicted, getting 22-year sentences and being told, we'll make this all go away if you say you had a personal relationship with Trump and he organized this? Like, how can you have faith in that system? How? I don't have faith in that system because of this. Like, I'm listening to this, and is this guy's testimony and his story, and people were making up stories to get these people in jail, to throw them away in solitary confinement using those special kind of cuffs, box cuffs, and all for what? To try to get after Trump? That is wild, man. Absolutely fucking wild. And I hope everybody involved gets prosecuted, gets thrown into the court system, investigated. And I just hope it all just comes back to bite him in the ass.
And they use me. They use people like Roger Stone. They use people close to the president to try and get them to flip. But if there's something that Mr. Stone taught me, and we've been friends for years, and I look up to the guy, is this stone don't roll.
Yeah.
Right. And that's very important. Loyalty is very, very, very.
Well, it's your integrity too.
It's not like cult-like loyalty. I'm not talking about that. That's what they always spin it. It's not cult-like. These are my friends, right? And if there's anything I can do with my 4 guys or any other of my guys that wear that laurel, this laurel.
I was wondering what that pin was.
Anything to me, protection by any means necessary for them is number one.
Well, not only that, I mean, if you're being fed lies and you're being told, hey, if you tell the story this way, our way, we'll just make this all disappear, but this is the story we're going to spin. There goes your integrity. There goes the good word of your name. All gone, out the window. It's done. Like, these people who were testifying against them and coming to find out everything was fabricated and made up. That's why they're saying that they don't show their faces anymore, and they're not anywhere. They're literally just hidden. Probably a witness protection program, I'm guessing. But still, like, how can you show your face if everything you did to get people thrown for decades, 22 years for a guy who wasn't there, and they couldn't even prove that the event was organized, and he got 22 years in prison where he was basically tortured, in his words, tortured, which I would agree. I would think it's torture, but not that I don't know what the definition of is. I've never been tortured before, so whatever. But still, like, 22 fucking years of his life is gone now. Well, it's 4 years. He got commuted, but 4 years of his life is gone, and he's a convicted felon for the rest of his life. All over a lie.
I have to kill my reputation for it. If I got to take, there's so many people that say, I'll take a bullet for you. If a person tells you that, it's bullshit. They're not even taking a bullet for you. But I do that because I know that they would be willing to do the same thing. I know Joe Biggs would do that for me without question. I know Ethan Nordine would do that for me with no question. I know Dominic Pizzola would do that for me with no question. I know Zachary Real would do that for me with no question. And that's that. And I'm talking about my brotherhood, but I'm just talking about our tribe, right? Our tribe is you, Crowder, the American people.
In other words, he's saying the groups that he's with.
Trump, the people that didn't vote for Trump, sometimes are part of the tribe. But this is my tribe. To me, it isn't about country anymore. I don't have that patriotism that a lot of people have. I don't. I'm tribal. And it sucks that I'm this way, but it's the only way to be. My people come first. And, the president's included in that. And I wasn't gonna betray my tribe.
Yeah.
Because he didn't betray
your
me.
integrity,
and he didn't do the actions that they were trying to say that he did. Which I think is, can you detail a little bit what's on that piece of paper?
For legal reasons, I can't. I will be able to talk about it at one point, but just I'll tell you what this. It was. If George R. Martin would ever finish his 5th book, this is a story he would write. So I'll tell you. That's what I'll tell you about it.
In other words, it sounds fictional. I'm guessing. It sounds crazy and made up.
I was going to do that.
And this is something that took place, right? So the DOJ pulls you in, and they show you this piece of paper. Is this something that happens with your lawyers present, without your lawyers present? Did you have legal representation?
I can't get into the details. I'd be putting myself in legal jeopardy if I tell you exactly what was going on in that room.
He's already been through this stuff. He doesn't want to do it again.
To get you immunity for this. I think I think it's interesting to talk about these things because to see the lens that they went to is crazy. And from my understanding, there was supposed to be a person in between the two of you as they drafted it to be the individual who was communicating back and forth between President Trump and yourself. I'm sure you can't disclose it, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Is this somebody who is a close ally of yours? Is somebody who was even made aware that you were looking to do this?
It was a very distant person to me.
Okay.
Right.
Got an ad coming up in a couple seconds, so I'm going to mute this in a second. Yeah, no.
A friend of a friend of a friend
I
of
hate
a friend.
ads.
And even that friend that's connected to me is somebody that I didn't have much interactions with.
Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to see how that even takes place. I do hope President Trump can give you immunity for that so we could talk about it, because I think the American people need to know how far our DOJ went under Joe Biden to go after their political opponents and President Trump, obviously, as well. But I think that's really important.
They need to also go after like how far they violated people's rights to spin a story that was a lie just to go after somebody. Like that's complete crap. That needs to be told. I agree.
Enrique, a lot of the times when I post about your stories, there's always a bunch of people like Fed.
Yeah, she's man crushing.
And so I've got to ask you these questions because, and that's really important for me.
And it's a fair question.
Yeah, and I've gone through because I've read some of your court transcripts, and I did notice that you have worked with law enforcement in the past.
Yeah.
So just going to throw this out there and be as direct as possible. Have you ever in your entire life been a federal informant or an asset for the United States government?
Yes. In 2013, law enforcement's not supposed to be bad. It's not supposed to be. I mean, we're looking in retrospect after what we've seen here. The situation in 2013 was it was a criminal organization that ran different types of black market situations, but their main method of business was sex trafficking.
Wow.
So I'm not here to try to hail myself as some type of hero that took down some criminal organization or some shit. But I did do that. I did do that.
I'm not gonna say I did that, but I did that.
I was a security contractor for the DoD for 12 years. Wow. There's a mixture within the stories, not the transcripts. Transcripts are transcripts, they're accurate. But some of the stories that came out, they kind of mix my work with the federal government to that portion that happened in 2013. I ran operations in some of those cases. So yeah, I was being pro law enforcement. And I guess there's a theme here. I am pro law enforcement. I think that some of those police officers that were there that day, some of them, not the ones that were clout chasers, like pussy Michael Fanone, or what's a big
Harry Dunn, he's the one who committed perjury during the Oath Keepers trial too, but he's out there crying.
I mean, he had the best platform to run for Congress, and he's a loser.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you lose that?
Yeah,
I mean,
and he got a book
you
deal.
have the liberal clout. Right? You have the liberal clout. You're running in like a ultra liberal, and you're a loser. Henry Dunn and Michael Fanone are losers. But wait, stop. I need to stop myself because I said I was pro law enforcement. I'm not pro Dunn. They're not law enforcement.
Yeah,
they're a bunch of clout chasers.
Yeah.
Some of those cops that went there, let's be honest, they were doing their job. Their job was to protect the building. You know, I get that they swore an oath, and I can give that benefit of the doubt to some of those people.
Keep kicking off my shoes, my feet keep freezing.
To protect the Constitution, and some of those people were there. Actually, all those people were there, projecting their freedom of speech and defending free speech by being there. But like those cops' job, they're cops, right? There's a building. This is your job. Protect the building. They were protecting the building,
doing their job.
Some of the, I mean, Lieutenant Bird's a fucking murderer.
Yeah,
he should be in prisons.
Yeah.
For what he did to Ashley Babbitt.
Oh, right. That must have been the girl that died.
He should be put in box cuffs and put on diesel therapy and taken around the country like I was. Right.
He must have been the one that killed the.
But some of those cops were just doing
the one person who died.
So I'm not mad at those cops, right? Did they do a poor job of it? Yeah. Did the cops up? We can't be binary. The cops that were up there shooting down at protesters, fuck you, you should be in prison. Okay? You were randomly shooting, you weren't shooting the front line of well, technically they were prisoners.
Yeah, they were going to be.
They were going to be. They weren't shooting the front line because what you're trying to do is you're trying to push back that front line. So you shoot it. No, they're shooting the back. They shot a hole through somebody's face.
Yeah.
Right? The dude literally had a napkin in there. He could like floss the little hole in his cheek.
Wow.
So like some of those cops should be prosecuted, but I'm going to tell you, I'm not anti-law enforcement. I'm not. If somebody wants to judge me for that, by all means, fuck you, do it.
Yeah.
Right? For what I did in 2013, you want to judge me? Fuck you, do it. That's fine. It doesn't affect me. I feel like I did the right thing.
Wow.
I'm unapologetic. I'm seditiously unapologetic. And a pardon sedition is supposedly. I mean, it sounds cool. It really does. It's not true, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Cool title to have.
Yeah,
Wow.
no, I understand that. And the thing that came up in court, I believe that while this is why people are confusing that, I think, with being an informant, that you worked with local law enforcement often when you and your guys would go out to protest. And obviously that's Antifa who's going to be there. So talk about that a little bit.
That's different.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why, because like I have a responsibility to keep my guys safe. The mission when we would go, I talk about it like it's like some fucking militia, but there is a mission. The number one objective when we go somewhere is, and I guess these are the priorities. Number one is safety. Number one, my goal is to, by any means necessary, and I keep using that term, is to keep my guys safe. I want all my guys safe without injury and without being locked up, right? Up until December 12th, I was very successful at that goal because every event that I either put together or attended with my guys, there was no arrests, there was no injuries. And since it's my responsibility to do that, when we go into a city like cesspools, like Portland, we pick the worst cities to go.
Yeah.
But it's the cities that have the problem, right? Portland, Seattle, we saw what they did with Chaz, with the chop. Austin, surprising, in Texas.
Yeah.
New York City, Washington, D.C. When we come into these, I have a responsibility to keep them safe. So I do contact local law enforcement. You want to judge me for it? Fuck you. I contact
make sure
them.
people
I
are
tell them we're
safe.
going to come into town. I tell them, hey, you don't need a permit. You don't need a permit to put an event together. I don't take permits out. I march on the streets, on the sidewalk, wherever I could that I don't bother law enforcement. And I call law enforcement to make sure that my guys and any counter protesters are kept at a safe distance. You know, it is my job to make sure my guys come home safe, and that is what it takes to do it. You know, you're not supposed to be afraid of that. Obviously, we are now because we know how they operate.
Yeah.
And I'd still be kind of skeptical about one agency. Kash Patel has
We're cut out for him.
Probably the hardest job besides the president's, because it's probably the most corrupt agency. I mean, it's been corrupt ever since
The
Hoover
FBI
started it. But you're supposed to trust law enforcement.
She's just sitting there contemplating decisions.
Them, but we can't. We've come to a point in America where we don't trust those institutions. Also, I was in a different mind state about law enforcement. I've changed a little bit my views on law enforcement, but I'm not going to apologize.
Well, do you regret, because it was used against you during your J6 trial, do you regret orchestrating with local PD? Because the accusations you were facing during your J6 trial was that you orchestrated January 6th, even though you weren't present. That was the argument they were trying to make. And so they were trying to kind of, from what I could see, just from reading it, say that the experiences previously that you had by orchestrating with local law enforcement kind of made it seem like this was what you were doing. You were orchestrating with police.
This apple cider vinegar.
Rumble apps.
I mean, do you regret, because it was used against you?
I don't regret and I don't apologize for shit.
Yeah.
Apologize is dick. I don't know how you commit an act of sedition when you're literally calling the cops and being like, hey, I'm coming to town. I would share my live location, with the liaison, whatever liaison I come into town to share. I have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
We have nothing nefarious. So how the fuck am I going to come into DC and be like, hey, Officer Shane Lamont, right? Because that was the officer that the DOJ railroaded. Good cops get railroaded.
Wow.
He needs to be part of it. But, and I'm working on that. Hey, I'm coming into town. Here's my live location. The Proud Boys are going to be here. We're going to march here. They knew my plans completely for January 6th. Why would if I'm going to storm the Capitol, if I'm going to commit an act of sedition,
or treason,
tell the cops?
Yeah, that's a good point.
The same cops that supposedly we'd want to beat up to get in there. There was no goal there.
Right.
Right. There's no objective. There wasn't like if I wanted to do it, it would have been done correctly. I didn't.
Yeah, why would you announce what you're going to do if your intention was to break the law?
To do it would have been successful.
I mean, we're talking about conservatives who, and this is why, and the left likes to lie, and they're very misleading, but they like to make claims that
I'm so angry about this mug thing. Can somebody get me a Sharpie?
Yeah,
put
Mug Club. Mug Club. You really do need one.
You don't really need to come up.
They're vintage items.
I just wanted to shit on Crowder for a second.
Oh man, don't worry. We're gonna get all that. That's gonna be expedited overnight.
Well, I'm gonna go see him at some point.
Yes, you have to. You have to. I think it's so crazy that they make the argument though that you guys were orchestrating all of this and that they did it. I mean, they try to make it seem like it was insurrection, obviously, that's their big narrative. But we're talking about 2A conservative Americans who, if they really wanted to do what they were accused of doing, they would have came armed. And then you see those on the left, Democrats, come out and they say, oh, well, they were armed. Well, not a single one of them were actually charged with that. I know also they like to talk about
that was the other part too. Like they kept saying like all the people who were there, they were armed, they were dangerous and stuff like that. I did hear there was a couple who had like Molotov cocktails, but none of them had like actual firearms or anything. And then come to find out those who did have the cocktails were like Antifa members. It's wild.
Died of natural causes. We know that because that's what it says.
Rest in peace.
Yes. And it's heartbreaking. Yes.
It is. It's heartbreaking for the family. And I understand the plight of his family, but I mean, I feel like it's an emotional thing to your sons. You got to blame somebody. And I get that. You know what? I'm not gonna shit on their family. Let them do whatever they want. But he did die of natural causes.
Yeah.
It's an autopsy.
Yeah.
We're here for facts.
That was the other part too. Like the one Capitol police officer who died ended up dying of natural causes, and they spun it for like 2 weeks or so that he died because of the riot on the day and everything. Come to find out it was natural causes the following day. And even the autopsy showed that. Then, oh, no, yeah, never mind. Bury that.
And nobody was charged with manslaughter. And I'm sure if the DOJ
crazy, man,
had a little linkage between anyone on manslaughter, they would have done so.
I'm actually surprised that they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Because they could have done it. They had the jury to do it. I mean, listen, in our trial, if they would have charged us with like jaywalking, treason, money laundering, like they could have put any charge on there that was like so obvious that we're innocent of, that jury in DC would have found us guilty. That judge would have granted them full rights to do whatever the hell they want. Those prosecutors would have came down. So I'm actually really surprised that nobody got a manslaughter charge for that. And I think it has to do with the autopsy and the hurdle. I mean, let me not say hurdle of grand jury indictment, because the grand jury indicted me for a document that I never even opened or read.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was a document. If you want to, let's talk about that for a second. Because how did that document make its way? From my understanding, that this document was forwarded to someone who was close, and then it was pushed over to you. But who was the originator in that document?
So, unfortunately, at that time, I had no idea, because for one, I never opened the document.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's just start with, I'm flat out telling you I didn't open it. And the prosecutors actually, and the forensics people that took the stand, they're like, no, we don't have any evidence he opened it.
And this document, what was it about?
It was, check out this name. It's called the 1776 Returns.
Okay.
But the actual document, as nefarious, and it's not nefarious, it's a regular. All
right. Yeah, I'm not opening that. It's basically like a mass PDF document. It's like a mass PDF document, and I feel like if I were to open that and look at it, I have people knowing I'm looking at it, and I'm not doing that.
It shouldn't be nefarious.
Yeah.
Whatever. Turned into a liberal there for a second.
Calm down.
I need a show.
There's some water. I haven't drinking that one. You can take it.
Yeah, well, it's not in a Crowder cup, so I don't.
Bad.
But the document itself is not nefarious. It's like a sit-in thing. We see this all the time. You go into a building, you sit in, you lock arms, which is it's cringe as shit. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Well, here's the perfect excuse. I would never use that document because it's cringe as fuck, and I would never do a fucking sit-in. I would never do that. But that's what the document states. There's nothing nefarious about it. But the document does have. There's a weird story there. I find this out later. The document was. It wasn't authored by him. It was edited by him. Because the original document, I think, is a little different. But by the name of, I think you got the name right. It was Samuel Armas.
I don't think I got that one.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Okay, well,
I know, breaking.
Breaking news.
I know, like, I don't think I knew. Yeah.
About the fucking cups.
You're never gonna get over it.
He's just gonna hold his feet to the fire on that one.
So this guy, it was a war game document, right? The very, very original document.
Might have drank.
And I can't, not that I can't get into it now, but I need to get some more information on the actual origins of the document. But the document, as we state, is a CIA war game, right? This isn't a conspiracy.
Oh, that's why I took you down.
Not a conspiracy theory.
That's why I took you off, because I got my hat on backwards.
But this is a CIA.
I can't use my pillow because of my hat.
to show, well, what if this happens? How do we stop it? You know, and it was put together by somebody that put together the CIA. Now he sent it over to another friend of mine, which forwarded it to me. And if I could show you my phone, I'd show you that I get 1 million messages an hour.
Yeah.
I don't have time to view messages.
I don't.
Right. Yeah. Especially now.
Yeah. Imagine.
But I never opened the document because I never saw it. So that's what they used to use the grand jury, and how the they got me, because they took 1.5 years for the grand jury to indict me. And how they got me is they finally unlocked my phone, and they found this document that they knew I never read, opened, edited. I never knew this thing existed.
Wow.
They put this in front of the grand jury. They're like, he had this on the phone. They never said anything else. They had this on the phone. And grand jury is like, oh, well, it's 1776 returns. That's what the people were screaming. You know, they think they're revolutionaries. I think we are revolutionaries, by the way, in the legal sense. I think that 2016 was a revolution, but I think 2024 is tops it.
And for the record, by the way, the individual, we're not going to say the name, but the individual who sent this to you in your phone, I won't even talk about, but they denied any of this, really, and they were very did not speak at your grand jury poorly about you, didn't even actually answer any questions, took the fifth, as from my understanding.
I'm going to tell you that person is solid. That person, I heard the recording. That person stood their ground.
Yep.
When they went ahead and went after them with guns blazing.
Yep.
I heard the recording. They dug themselves in the sand. So, yeah, she could have done what Jeremy did.
Yeah, and didn't do that. That was the point I wanted to drive home, that this was somebody who knew that you were being railroaded and wanted to not partake in that behavior, because they knew that there's something was very wrong about this.
It's bullshit.
Wow.
They're trying to nab everybody and
they're trying to go after everyone.
The wall, and they had like this
trying to witch hunt it.
They had like a giant shit truck with a fire hose, and they're just hitting the wall.
Gonna have an ad come up in a few seconds here.
It's 100% conviction rate. You know, maybe they're like, well, it's 100% conviction rate because you know,
they convicted you because they can.
No, fuck you. It's because of DC.
It's DC. Well, actually, remember at the very beginning of the trials, there was one J6 defendant who
doesn't want to touch the
actually
mic.
Was found not guilty by the judge. They waived their right to have a jury, and I was like, well, maybe that's a winning strategy in DC.
Yeah, it is actually. You do better with not much better.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. No, it's not good.
But you do a lot better with some of these judges, and he was an Obama appointed judge. He's a judge. He's a judge in a case. I don't know what to do with this.
If you need more water, you could have mine. I have not drank enough.
No, I don't want that cup. Mug. He's a judge now in these civil lawsuit cases with us, and he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I get that he's my judge. Sorry if you're watching this, but you are a piece of shit.
This is why people love you, though. This is why Americans flock to you. It's funny. I was watching as you were making your way back to Miami. We should mention this too. So for all of you at home, obviously you were pardoned and you made your way back to Miami this week. And
I was a victim of the insurrection.
You were a victim of an insurrection because the media actually got very violent. And we should talk about for a second. I mean, the huddle of the media, and as they were going and trying to take photos, ask you questions. Talk about that. That was interesting.
So it's a funny story because I kind of didn't want to do a lot of media when I came home. So I kind of just wanted to.
Oh yeah, I mean, you want to be home.
Yeah, I heard that.
Clout chasing 101. I'm kidding. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to get to the airport. Any questions? Just kill it off, one shot.
Yeah.
And stop the bullshit. So my mom,
great woman,
warrior, was overly effective.
Yes.
I told her, hey, let's get some media out at the airport so I won't have to fucking deal with them all the time. Because I kind of wanted to just get home and grill. So she brought in, it was like about 100 cameramen and news crews and all of that.
Well, yeah, that's a big deal. That's the whole reason I'm reacting to this video. It's a huge deal.
They went in a stack formation, right? And they say this. Stuart Rhodes went in a stack formation into the Capitol.
Oh yeah.
So they made a hallway, and then I hugged my mom, I hugged my fiance, my dad, everybody was there. And as soon as I start walking, I'm about to walk through this hall, but I stop because I'm like, okay, let me start answering some questions. So this group of insurrectionists comes in and like boxes me in, and I couldn't say anything, and it started getting really violent, and they started punching each other. I mean, it looked like January 6th, you know, kicking, screaming. I had to leave law enforcement. They did an excellent job of kind of diffusing the situation, getting me out of there in time, and throwing me in the truck and getting the out of there.
Wow.
But it was a cool. I mean, you could have thought it was like some soccer star or something, you know.
Getting
But
mob rushed.
that is not thanks to me. That is completely thanks to the warrior that I have as a mother. She's been amazing.
Yeah, she's been great. She's kept me in the loop on all of this. And she's definitely someone who, I mean, I was joking with you, but I'm like, I don't know if my parents would ever do this for me. But she's been someone who's been by your side in all of this and taking on the media, because there's a lot to take on, because they have been bashing your character and who you are as an individual.
She's a good mother.
The organization, the Proud Boys, and going after all of you. And so I think it's laughable that they were actually very violent themselves.
Well, when you get on Crowder and you call the judge a piece of shit, yeah,
you know,
you could expect a little bit of heat back, but
yeah, a little bit.
It's true. I'm sorry. It's true. It's true. Throughout this whole thing, I don't know how we. I'm just a regular street kid from Miami. I'm not. I don't think I say anything different than anybody else does.
Yeah.
I think
you just speak your mind. That's a different thing.
With some of the views that I have, I disagree with their views, but I don't say anything different. There's nothing special about what I'm saying.
Right.
Right. I want Second Amendment rights. I want First Amendment rights. So it's not. So
yeah,
they've created me. The liberal media has created
because they amplified him
persona that doesn't exist. He simply doesn't exist. I'm a regular dude. I got a regular family. I live in a regular house. I'm not rich. The government's trying to make me poor by suing me. But they needed a boogeyman for that day. They needed the 22-year guy because they couldn't get
anybody else
guy that they wanted.
Right. They couldn't get anybody else.
President Trump, yeah.
Yeah. They got, I mean, in the chessboard, they didn't get like a pawn. They wanted for the king, and they got a bunch of knights, which is what my guys are. They're a bunch of knights. I know.
And they tried using him to get to Trump.
They're very noble. They're everyday Americans. They love this country. There's nothing extremist about our views.
Yeah.
I always ask anybody about
it's extreme.
When we talk about the Proud
Boys. So this is one of the reasons why it's like, yeah, there's nothing extreme about their views. Right. It's the fact that their views are extreme to those who have extreme views. And because they're completely opposite, they're extreme views. And that's why they needed to silence every one of them.
Extreme on? What is it exactly that you disagree with us so much that you have to call us extremists? And it comes from our side too.
The hate for that individual is so high on that side.
I use far left just to get a jab in there.
Yeah. But we use those terms. We use terms different because we use it as like, okay, look, this is what you're going to call us. We're going to call you.
She's like, you're going to lecture me.
It's reactionary.
She looks like she's falling asleep. Why are we focusing on her?
November 5th proves that.
Yeah.
It's just focusing on her. She's going to fall asleep.
Average, everyday Americans
it's still going.
Agree with
It's supposed to be an hour, 20 minutes ago.
With 100% of our guys. Like
oh,
I said,
yeah.
I don't agree
119.
A lot of things that
she's like, this shit's dragging.
Members, we're not a focus group either. You know, we're not a laser focus group that focuses on 2A rights. Listen, in order to become a member, all you need to do is be a man, be born a man, which is crazy. You got to say born a man.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Maybe that might be another lawsuit heading your way. Discrimination.
Crazy enough as it is, Bruce Jenner's in.
Oh.
But
so Bruce and Brianna not.
Yeah. Probably. You know what? Maybe I went too far there. The guys will probably they're like, we're not going to take in Bruce Jenner. But that's all you need to do. You need to be born a man. And you need to recognize that the West is the best. Western civilization is the best. They're like, oh, that's a dog whistle for white supremacy. So like our entire system of government is white supremacy. Is that what you're saying?
That's what they're getting at, it seems like.
So, and you don't got to go to a rally to be a member. Actually, 90% of the members don't go to rallies. The most political thing they did is, like I said before, they went to go vote.
Right.
You just have to come out of the house.
Oh, because they're called the Proud Boys, and you can't be a female in the Proud. You can't be a girl in the Proud Boys because boys. Yeah, okay.
House once a month. And
now I get it.
With the boys. That's it.
It's a tough requirement for some of us.
In a beer bottle, not a mug.
I like it. I like that. So I was listening, and a lot of media outlets are referring to you as the former leader of the Proud Boys. It's a tough question. Are you the former leader of the Proud Boys?
So we've made a decision. We made a decision about 3 years ago, almost before I came in, that we're not going to be publicly stating what our structure is. It puts us at jeopardy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you have somebody
Gavin had to
who's
step down,
the new target,
because they were going to do the same thing to him back in 2008.
I mean, that's smart.
With Max and John.
If you, that's kind of smart.
For those that don't know.
If you're out there and you're advertising who the leaders of this is, you're just putting targets on them for the government to go after next. That's smart.
Our dudes,
especially if they just railroaded these people.
And New York State indicted the defenders. They were in self-defense, and they got 4 years in prison.
Wow.
And Gavin had to step down because to show that we're not this gang of criminals. Because
right, like I'm the leader, nobody else is the leader.
Honorably.
Yeah.
He stepped down. He did that by any means necessary thing. He did it. He stepped down. He took the pride hit. This is the organization he created. And
when I started drinking warm.
Oh my God. I'm gonna laugh at you now. Jesus.
That's how that cookie crumbles. I mean, I love my guys. It's a brotherhood, but we made the decision to not talk about our structure publicly. But I would suggest that people stop referring to me as ex-Proud Boy leader.
I like it. I like that a lot. All right, before we go, I've got to ask you, because obviously you've been on the receiving end of a lot of the torture that's gone on. I have to say, I've talked to J6 all the time. I think that you got it the worst out of everyone. So I want to really hear your opinion on this. How does the U.S. government, now that we have a new administration turnover, make things right with Enrique Tarrio?
It's not about Enrique Tarrio. It's about what happened with J6ers, and not only J6ers. We had a lot of political persecution during the Biden regime.
Yeah.
We had Bevelyn Beatty.
She's still in prison.
She didn't get pardoned.
She was not pardoned. I'm talking to her husband right now. As of earlier this week, there was rumors. Her husband did go to the prison to pick her up because he thought she was going to get pardoned, and they told him no. She's still there right now. I actually just got a letter from her this morning, which broke my heart, because she was counting down the days until she thought she was going to be released.
She's a good friend. Really, really good friend.
Her husband spoke highly of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thank him. I thank him daily. And I actually, I'm sorry. I now I feel horrible because I didn't know.
Yeah. We're working on it.
I'm catching up. I'm within 24 hours.
All of the best people are on the case. I've called them all.
Not all the best people, because you don't have me.
We've activated you.
Yeah, thank you. We've just been activated on the Crowder show.
Yes.
We need a mug for that.
Still going after your way. I'm still going after the mugs.
I'm gonna reach out to the producers.
All right. I won't mention the bugs anymore. I'm kidding. I will. But yeah.
So some people are still in prison.
I feel really bad that I haven't kept up with that. But Bevelyn Beatty, and not only Bevelyn, there's other anti-abortion, pro-life, anti-abortion, pro-life demonstrators that I was actually in transit with one, because I've been in transit with probably everybody that's in the BOP. I've been in transit with them. They're great people.
Yeah.
They gave them like 10 years or something like that. So it's not about just me. It's not an Enrique Tarrio thing. It's not
some people are still in prison over this stuff.
Thing. It's not a January 6th thing. It's political persecution thing. How do we get, what kind of restitution would right these wrongs? And it might be money, but it might be putting the people that did this, fixing the system is the true way we fix this.
Right.
And the way that we fix the system is investigations. They need to be investigating I'm gonna quote Pam Bondi here. The investigators need to be investigated, and the prosecutors need to be prosecuted.
Yeah, because the only way you're going to fix this system, the only way you're going to fix the system is if you fix the ones who broke the system.
That you've taken, that the Biden regime has taken from the
That's
Biden
by
and
investigations.
Obama regime. Yeah, because we saw it with all
public investigations.
You know, we saw it with Ross Ulbricht, and we need to see pardons for Assange, Snowden, Shane Lamons, the officer that got railroaded. If you guys are listening, please Google Shane Lamond and read about the case. He needs to be pardoned too.
I have to look into that one.
The way that we can start is we could get the government to start paying out to these families that have been affected by political persecution.
Well, not only that, the people who've been involved in it. You got to think some of these people have been in prison for years, for the last 3 to 4 years since this whole thing happened. And they're literally they're convicted felons now. They can probably not get a job. Their families have probably been financially ruined because they're probably the one making the income, or at least one contributing to the income, has been in prison this entire time, or at the very least convicted and can't work and find a job because of the whole thing that happened, coming to find out that it was completely misused as a lie.
Put the perpetrators in prison.
Yeah, there's got to be some kind of financial compensation for this.
Start cashing them checks.
I think it's fair. And I think a lot of these people who, I think that investigations also should lead to those who are involved, judges, prosecutors, everyone who touched these cases to be disbarred, because you should not be allowed to practice law or have anything in the justice system
corrupt
after allowing what took place to take place. And it's the only way that we could restore faith in the justice system, if people are publicly punished for what's taken place. But so far, I mean, obviously we're just a few days into the new administration, but we haven't seen anything coming out of a lot of the Crossfire Hurricane characters. And so that's why they're just so emboldened to keep doing this. And
There's some.
We're hopeful.
Yeah.
with Pam Bondi, that she'll.
I'm not just hopeful. I mean, it's the president. It's the president. In a way we've never seen him before.
Yeah.
There's nothing to lose right now. He's going to make America great again. And it's not going to be through retribution. It's going to be through success.
No, but you got to restore the faith to the people in those systems, in their government, in the justice system.
Well, we look forward to that. Enrique Tarrio, enjoy
the government needs the people's
your freedom.
Faith. I'm enjoying it right now.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, sir, for sitting with me. Sorry about the mug.
No, don't be sorry. You know what? I've given you guys so much shit about the mugs. I think just to do it.
They're just gonna send you like a bulk Costco order.
He's gonna drop a pallet right in front of my house.
Yeah, they will. They probably will.
I need a mug.
That's all right.
All right.
It's probably in the way right now.
All right.
I can promise you that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Click.
All right. Well, hold on. I'll let him.
Grumble Premium and join now for $99 annually or $9.99 a month to get the entirely ad-free experience and exclusive content from live.
Yeah, I'm not paying $100 a month. But that was the video. And it was an exclusive video of J6er Enrique Tarrio, who was the leader at the time of Proud Boys during January 6th. That was a very eye-opening interview. The fact that they were placed in multiple prisons, moved around, kept very far distance from their family. Families didn't know much about what was going on. They were put through torturous styles, like the box cuffs, literally having him transport 14 hours just to get back on a bus to transport for another 13, 14 hours. And then, the situations of being in solitary confinement for, you're in solitary confinement for 3 days just so you could get a break from that. And I got to take these headphones off, man. My ears are hot. You're in solitary confinement for 3 days and you get 15 minutes to do a shower. And that's your only break from this. Then you find out in the trial that people were fabricating stories that they couldn't prove. People were ignoring evidence. They're like, well, shouldn't we have the videos for this? Nah, screw that. We don't need that. Let's just continue. Then they have jury members who were members of groups that the Proud Boys openly were protesting against. And, he said marching against, well, protesting or however you want to put it. And so, an organizer for those groups was actively the head of the jury. The foreman, I believe is the correct term. And Like the whole thing is just insane. And how they were like, the Department of Justice wanted to give him 33 years. The judge thought he was being lenient by taking off a third of it, giving him 22 years. And then the DOJ tried appealing. The DOJ appealed to try to get him to 33 years anyway. Like, and then they were trying to offer him a deal. Hey, you won't serve any jail time if you just say that you were involved with President Trump. Like, holy shit, dude. How do you repair that kind of damage that's out there to the Department of Justice? Absolutely insane. I'm going to post this video on YouTube. I'll leave a link to the video itself in the description. If you are out there on YouTube, this is just another reminder. I won't be dual streaming on YouTube anymore because of the complications I'm having with my GPU. So until I can get that replaced, dual streaming is just, it's not working very well. I've had it crash out on me today or earlier this morning when I tried doing it. So if you want to head over to Twitch, toss me a follow, subscribe there. You can use your Prime sub, gift sub, or what have you. There's other options there if you want to further support the stream. Best way to do it is to toss me a follow, or if you're on YouTube, toss me a subscribe. I hope you all have a good one, and if this is a style of content you want to see, let me know, and I'll keep doing reaction videos to just random videos I find, or if you want to send them to me, my Discord is below, and if you want me to live react to those videos as well, let me know. All right, I'll see y'all next time.